Sir Reginald and the Melting Candy Castle. Segment 1. The last sliver of twilight, a soft, bruised purple, had finally receded from the sky, leaving behind the inky expanse of a child's bedroom at slumber. A night light, shaped like a friendly moon, cast a gentle, amber glow across the plush carpet, transforming everyday objects into shadowy, intriguing landscapes. Dust motes, like tiny, dancing fireflies, shimmered in the faint light, suspended in the quiet, undisturbed air. The scent of faint lavender from a nearby sachet mingled with the comforting, warm aroma of well-loved toys. It was a time of hushed anticipation, where the real world faded and the realm of imagination bloomed. Deep within this cozy kingdom, nestled amongst a sprawl of colorful building blocks and a half-finished puzzle of a smiling dinosaur, lay Sir Reginald, a teddy bear of considerable bravery and, if truth be told, a slightly frayed right ear. He was a knight, through and through, from the meticulously stitched, albeit slightly askew, silver are emblazoned on his chest his miniature, shimmering plastic sword, always at the ready by his side. His fur, a rich, warm caramel, was soft from countless hugs, and his button eyes, a deep, knowing brown, held a perpetual twinkle of adventurous spirit. Right now, however, they were wide with slumber, his plush body relaxed against a crumpled, rainbow-striped blanket that served as his royal bedchamber. Beside him, curled in a tight, protective ball, was Patch, his loyal companion. Patch was a scruffy terrier made of various patches of gray and white felt, with one floppy ear and a perpetually wagging, if somewhat stiff, tail. His small, black bead eyes were currently shut tight, dreaming, no doubt, of chasing runaway socks or perhaps a particularly elusive dust bunny. The room was peaceful, a haven, but even havens can be pierced by urgent tidings. Segment 2. The profound quiet of the bedroom, however, was not destined to last. A soft, insistent rustling began, originating from the shadowy depths beneath the child's bed, a place often whispered about in hushed tones amongst the toy inhabitants as they underworld, a realm of forgotten treasures and occasional monsters, usually just dust bunnies of truly formidable size. From this mysterious abyss, a small, crinkled piece of paper, no larger than Sir Reginald's paw, fluttered into the amber glow. It landed with a barely audible sigh just beside his head, the sudden shift in the air a subtle disruption to his peaceful slumber. Sir Reginald's button eyes snapped open, blinking once, then twice, as he registered the unexpected arrival. His fur bristled ever so slightly. He was a knight, yes, and brave, but even the bravest teddy bear can be startled by an unsolicited parchment. Patch, sensing the change in his companion's demeanor, stirred, his floppy ear twitching. He lifted his head, his bead eyes, usually full of sleepy contentment, now reflecting a spark of curiosity. With a soft grunt, he nudged the paper with his wet nose. It was then that Sir Reginald noticed the distinctive, sugary sweet scent wafting from the note, a scent that hinted at the very core of their candy-filled world. He cautiously extended a paw, his tiny, stitched fingers brushing against the crisp surface of the paper. It was folded neatly, but a single, urgent word, scrawled in what appeared to be melted chocolate, was visible through a tear. Melting. The word itself seemed to scream a desperate plea, sending a shiver of unease through Sir Reginald's plush body. His heart, a small, tightly packed ball of stuffing, began to pound with a quiet urgency. Segment 3. Sir Reginald snatched up the tiny note, his paws trembling slightly with a mix of alarm and resolve. The chocolatey script was smudged in places, but the message was undeniably clear. He unfolded the paper carefully, his brow furrowed in concentration. The message, written in hurried, uneven letters, read, "To Sir Reginald, brave knight of the bedroom. The candy castle is melting. A great heat descends. We need you. Hurry." From the Gummy Bear Guard. A small, sticky stain at the bottom hinted at the urgency of the sender. The thought of the candy castle, a magnificent edifice built from gingerbread, adorned with peppermint stick turrets, and surrounded by rivers of sugary frosting, melting into a sticky puddle, filled him with dread. It was the heart of their sugary realm, a beacon of joy and deliciousness. Patch, sensing the gravity of the situation, let out a soft whine, his tail thumping a gentle rhythm against the blanket. He looked up at Sir Reginald with wide, questioning eyes, as if to ask, "What's wrong, my knight?" Sir Reginald met his gaze, a determined glint in his own button eyes. "Patch," he announced, his voice a soft, muffled rumble. "The candy castle is in peril. We must go at once." He tucked the urgent message carefully into a tiny, sewn pocket on his tunic, a pocket usually reserved for particularly shiny buttons or interesting stray threads. The peaceful atmosphere of the bedroom had vanished, replaced by an urgent sense of purpose. This was no ordinary night. This was a call to adventure, a summons to save their sweet world from a sticky, sugary demise. The weight of his knightly duties settled upon his plush shoulders, a familiar, comforting burden. Segment 4. With a swift, decisive movement, Sir Reginald sprang from his rainbow-striped bed, his small plastic sword glinting in the moon-shaped nightlight. His stuffing-filled limbs, usually accustomed to leisurely naps and gentle playtime, now moved with a surprising agility. Patch, sensing the urgency in his knight's actions, scrambled to his feet, a low, excited growl rumbling in his throat. His floppy ear bounced with each eager twitch of his head, his bead eyes fixed on Sir Reginald, ready for whatever command might come. The air in the bedroom, once still and serene, now crackled with the invisible energy of an unfolding adventure. Their first obstacle, a formidable one in the eyes of a teddy bear and his dog, was the vast, undulating expanse of the Pillow Mountains. These were not just ordinary pillows. These were the towering, cloud-like fortresses of the child's sleeping area, some stacked haphazardly, others leaning precariously, forming a perilous, soft range. The peaks were the fluffy corners, the valleys, the deep depressions where the child's had usually rested. The atmosphere here was cool and soft, smelling faintly of clean linen, a stark contrast to the sugary scent of the melting castle. Sir Reginald, ever the strategist, surveyed the treacherous terrain. "Patch," he whispered, his voice hushed with the seriousness of their quest. "We must cross these peaks. Stay close, my friend." He knew that a single misstep could send them tumbling into the vast, dark chasm between the bed and the floor, a place where forgotten toys sometimes vanished forever. His internal feelings were a mix of resolute determination and a flicker of nervous apprehension, the kind a knight feels before a truly daunting journey. Yet, the image of the melting candy castle spurred him onward. Segment 5. Sir Reginald, with his small but stout heart pounding a determined rhythm, began his ascent. The Pillow Mountains were indeed a challenge. Each step required careful paw placement, sinking slightly into the soft, yielding fabric. The air here, cool and slightly static, rustled against his fur as he pushed upwards. He used the deep seams of the pillowcases as miniature climbing ropes, his small, stitched fingers gripping tightly. Patch, with his shorter legs and more compact frame, found the going even tougher. He scrambled behind Sir Reginald, sometimes slipping, sometimes letting out a soft woof of frustration as his little claws struggled to find purchase on the slick, satiny fabric. His internal world was a mix of dogged loyalty and a playful eagerness for the chase, even if the chase was an arduous climb. The atmosphere around them was thick with the quiet drama of their miniature expedition. Shadows stretched and danced with every subtle shift of the nightlight, making the familiar bedroom feel vast and unexplored. Sir Reginald paused on a particularly high peak, a firm, decorative pillow adorned with embroidered stars. From this vantage point, he could see the distant glimmer of a white, undulating expanse, the rushing rivers of blankets. They looked like turbulent, foamy currents in the dim light, promising another formidable challenge. A pang of doubt, fleeting but distinct, flickered within Sir Reginald. The journey was proving far more arduous than he had initially imagined. Yet, the image of the Candy Castle, in all its sugary glory, melting away, spurred him on. He took a deep breath, the soft scent of fabric softener filling his plush lungs, and renewed his resolve. "Almost there, Patch," he murmured, more to himself than to his companion, before beginning the careful descent into the treacherous Blanket Valley. Segment 6. The descent from the Pillow Mountains was arguably more treacherous than the climb. Each step down the smooth, sloping fabric of a pillowcase felt like teetering on the edge of a soft precipice. Sir Reginald, ever cautious, used his tiny, stitched fingers to grip the woven threads, sliding gently rather than tumbling headlong. Patch, with his shorter legs and lower center of gravity, found a comical rhythm of belly slides and frantic scampers, occasionally letting out a muffled yip that was quickly stifled by the soft fabric. The air grew a little warmer here, closer to the cozy core of the bed, carrying the faint, comforting scent of the child who slept peacefully just beyond their awareness. Finally, they reached the foot of the last pillow, landing with soft thuds on the flat, vast expanse that was the bedsheet. Before them lay the formidable obstacle of the rushing rivers of blankets. These were not literal rivers, of course, but the way the blankets were rumpled and folded, they formed deep, swirling channels and high, choppy waves of fabric. The current was the inherent instability of the loose material, threatening to engulf small adventurers. The dominant color here was a deep, calming blue, suggesting the vastness of an ocean, but to Sir Reginald, it represented a perilous journey. He felt a surge of apprehension, a tightening in his plush chest. This was a challenge of a different kind, one that required balance and strategic navigation rather than pure climbing prowess. He looked at Patch, whose beady eyes mirrored his own concern, but also a boundless eagerness for the next part of their grand escapade. The melting castle, a sticky urgency, propelled them forward. Segment 7. Sir Reginald, his brow furrowed in concentration, assessed the turbulent fabric landscape. The rivers of blankets seemed to ripple and shift with a life of their own, creating deep troughs and treacherous peaks. He needed a strategy. His gaze fell upon a discarded storybook, its vibrant cover depicting a soaring dragon. Its spine, stiff and sturdy, seemed like a potential bridge. "Patch," he announced, his voice a determined murmur. "We'll use this. It will be our ferry." His internal thoughts were a whirlwind of calculation and cautious optimism. The odds felt daunting, but the urgency of their mission outweighed his fear. With a concerted effort, the two companions began to maneuver the heavy book. Sir Reginald pushed with all his might, his tiny paws scrabbling for purchase on the smooth sheet. Patch, eager to assist, nudged it with his head, his small body straining. Slowly, laboriously, they managed to push the book's spine across a particularly wide chasm formed by a deep fold in the blanket. The air here was subtly different, carrying a faint sweetness that, while not as strong as the initial message, hinted at the sugary realm they sought to save. The shadows cast by the rumpled blankets seemed to lengthen and deepen, adding to the feeling of a vast, unexplored territory. The task was physically demanding, testing their small, plush muscles, but the thought of the melting candy castle spurred them onward. They knew, without a doubt, that every inch gained was an inch closer to saving their beloved sweet world. Segment 8. With the storybook successfully positioned as their makeshift bridge, Sir Reginald and Patch began their perilous crossing of the rushing rivers of blankets. The surface of the book, slick and smooth, required careful balance. Sir Reginald led the way, his small paws gripping the edges, his button eyes fixed on the distant shore. Each step was deliberate, a testament to his focused determination. He imagined the book swaying precariously, like a true bridge over a raging torrent. Patch, with his lighter weight and natural agility, scampered behind, his tail wagging a nervous but excited rhythm. A few times, a sudden shift in the blanket underneath sent a jolt through the bridge, making them both wobble precariously. Sir Reginald's heart, a small, courageous knot of stuffing, gave a nervous flutter, but he pushed the fear aside. The atmosphere around them hummed with the quiet tension of their journey. The air, though still holding the faint scent of fabric, was now tinged with a subtle, cloying sweetness, growing stronger with every inch they traversed. It was the scent of the candy castle, but a scent subtly altered, hinting at the distress within. The shadows cast by the rumpled blankets seemed to writhe and stretch, making the familiar bedroom feel even more alien and vast. Ahead, beyond the turbulent blanket waters, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer could be seen. It was the distorted, melting outline of the candy castle, a sight that filled Sir Reginald with a renewed sense of urgency and a deep, empathetic sadness for its plight. They were close, but the final obstacles lay ahead, and the clock, unseen but ever present, was ticking in the sweet, humid air. Segment 9. Having successfully navigated the treacherous blanket rivers, Sir Reginald and Patch finally reached the shore, a flat, open expanse of the bedroom carpet. The air here was noticeably warmer, and the sweet, cloying aroma of the candy castle was now undeniable, a thick, almost palpable presence that made Sir Reginald's plush nose twitch. It was a smell of melting sugar, a sad inversion of the delightful fragrance it usually held. Ahead, the shimmering, distorted outline of the candy castle was clearer now, a truly heartbreaking sight. Turrets of peppermint stick leaned at drunken angles, windows of hard candy were blurring, and rivers of once pristine frosting now oozed down its gingerbread walls, leaving sticky, glistening trails. Sir Reginald felt a profound pang of sorrow in his small, brave heart. This was not the vibrant, joyful fortress he knew. This was a castle in distress, slowly succumbing to an unseen force. His initial apprehension morphed into a resolute determination. He squared his tiny, plush shoulders, his plastic sword still gleaming valiantly by his side. Patch, seeing the devastation unfold, let out a soft, mournful whine, nudging his head against Sir Reginald's leg. His usual playful energy was replaced by a somber focus, his bead eyes reflecting the muted light from the nightlight, which now seemed to cast long, sorrowful shadows across the carpet. The atmosphere had shifted from one of adventurous exploration to a more urgent, almost mournful rescue mission. The weight of their task pressed upon them, a solemn reminder of the sweet world they were fighting to save. Segment 10. As they drew closer to the suffering candy castle, the source of the melting became agonizingly clear. A gigantic, discolored wall of melting gum stood directly in their path, rising several inches high, an insurmountable barrier of sticky, viscous goo. It wasn't just any gum. It was the sugary, brightly colored chewing gum that the child sometimes left out, now slowly liquefying under what must have been the unseen warmth of the bedside lamp, or perhaps just the ambient warmth of the room over time. The vibrant pinks, blues, and greens were bleeding into each other, forming a swirling, sickly sweet-smelling morass. It stretched across their entire line of sight, an impassable, sticky moat around the distressed castle. Sir Reginald felt a wave of despair wash over him. His button eyes widened in disbelief and a pang of frustration. They had come so far, overcome pillow mountains and blanket rivers, only to be met by this insurmountable, sticky challenge. His previous resolve wavered, replaced by a momentary feeling of helplessness. How could a small teddy bear and his loyal dog possibly traverse such a barrier? It wasn't just the stickiness. The sheer volume of the melting gum suggested a deep, oozing trap. Patch, sensing his knight's despondency, let out a soft, inquiring whine, nudging his nose against the hem of Sir Reginald's tunic. His loyal eyes seemed to ask, "What now, my friend?" The air grew thicker with a sweet, sickening aroma, a stark reminder of the castle's rapid decline. The atmosphere was heavy with the weight of this new, seemingly unconquerable obstacle. Segment 11. Sir Reginald stood transfixed, staring at the gelatinous, shimmering expanse of the melting gum wall. The despair that had briefly gripped him began to recede, replaced by a familiar flicker of the knightly resolve that had always defined him. He was a knight, and knights did not abandon their quests, especially not when the very heart of their sweet kingdom was at stake. He knew giving up was not an option. His mind, though small and stuffed, began to whir, searching for a solution to this sticky predicament. He remembered tales of perseverance, of brave heroes who found their way through seemingly impossible barriers. He examined the gum wall more closely. It wasn't uniform. There were small, semi-solid bubbles forming on its surface, and in some places, the melting was more advanced, creating shallow pools of viscous liquid. The aroma was intensely sweet now, almost overwhelming, clinging to the fur on his face. Patch, sensing the return of his knight's determination, let out a soft, encouraging bark, a tiny spark of hope in the gloom. He began to sniff excitedly at the base of the gum wall, as if searching for a weakness. The air around them was heavy with the humid stickiness, and the faint, sad sounds of the melting castle seemed to whisper in the background, a slow, dripping sound, like tears of sugar. This new atmosphere, fraught with the immediate challenge of the gum, demanded ingenuity and unwavering courage. Segment 12. An idea, a small spark of ingenuity, ignited in Sir Reginald's plush mind. He remembered seeing the child on occasion use something long and thin to pry sticky things apart, a pencil. He scanned the immediate vicinity, his button eyes darting amongst the various discarded treasures and forgotten playthings scattered across the carpet. Near a forgotten crayon box, partially hidden beneath a crumpled drawing of a very cheerful sun, lay a long, yellow pencil. It wasn't just any pencil. It was a particularly sturdy one, with a slightly blunted eraser at one end. A surge of hopeful energy coursed through Sir Reginald. This could be their tool, their key to overcoming the sticky barrier. Patch, Sir Reginald exclaimed, his voice filled with renewed purpose. The pencil. It's perfect. Patch, ever vigilant, followed his knight's gaze and let out a happy bark, his tail thumping against the carpet in anticipation. The atmosphere shifted once more, from one of despair to one of ingenious planning and active problem-solving. The sweet, cloying smell of melting gum still permeated the air, a constant reminder of their urgent task, but now it was tinged with the scent of wood and graphite from the pencil, a new, almost scientific aroma. The shadows, which had seemed so ominous just moments ago, now appeared to hold the promise of hidden solutions. With a shared glance of determination, Sir Reginald and Patch began to push and maneuver the pencil, aiming its blunt eraser end towards the formidable gum wall. Segment 13. Maneuvering the pencil was a strenuous task for the small teddy bear and his dog. The pencil, so light in a child's hand, was a formidable log to them. Sir Reginald, bracing his tiny paws against the carpet, pushed with all his might, his stuffing straining. Patch, ever resourceful, used his snout and paws, nudging and pulling, occasionally letting out little grunts of effort. The blunt, rubbery end of the eraser seemed to offer the best chance for leverage against the sticky mass. The air around them was thick with a combined sense of melting gum, wood, and a faint hint of pencil lead, creating an oddly mixed aroma that was both cloying and earthy. With a final, concerted push, the eraser end of the pencil made contact with the wall of melting gum. There was a soft, squelching sound as it sank slightly into the viscous substance. Sir Reginald immediately began to push the pencil forward, attempting to carve a path, or at least a stable bridge, through the sticky barrier. The gum resisted, clinging to the eraser, making progress slow and arduous. Each inch gained was a victory, earned through sheer perseverance. Sir Reginald felt the strain in his plush limbs, a familiar ache of exertion. Yet, the image of the melting candy castle, its sweet essence slowly dissolving, remained vivid in his mind, fueling his determination and pushing him onward through the sticky, challenging obstacle. He knew that their teamwork was their greatest strength, and together, they would find a way. Segment 14. The struggle against the melting gum wall was a testament to Sir Reginald's unwavering spirit and Patch's steadfast loyalty. The air grew even heavier, almost humid with a cloying sweetness, making the fur on Sir Reginald's face feel slightly sticky. Each push of the pencil into the viscous gum was met with stubborn resistance. The gum, warm and yielding yet incredibly tenacious, wrapped itself around the eraser, threatening to halt their progress entirely. Sir Reginald would push, then pull back slightly to clear the accumulating goo, his small paws becoming increasingly coated. Patch, seeing his knight struggle, began to nose at the gum at the pencil's sides, attempting to break its hold, his small growls a guttural testament to his effort. Their teamwork was a silent, determined ballet of pushing, prodding, and clearing. The sounds were soft squelches and the quiet rustle of their plush bodies against the carpet. Sir Reginald felt a burning sensation, not of pain, but of sheer, unadulterated effort in his stuffing. He refused to give in. The thought of the candy castle, its vibrant colors now muted by a film of sticky sweetness, filled him with a surge of renewed purpose. He imagined the gummy bear guard, waiting patiently for their rescue, their sugary faces undoubtedly filled with worry. This inner vision fueled him, pushing him through the physical discomfort and the overwhelming stickiness. Slowly, painstakingly, a narrow, sticky path began to form through the formidable wall, an arduous tunnel of determined effort. Segment 15. After what felt like an eternity of determined pushing and pulling, Sir Reginald and Patch finally broke through the sticky clutches of the melting gum wall. They emerged onto a surface that, while still tacky, was far less formidable, the very edge of the candy castle's base. The air here was overwhelmingly sweet, thick with the scent of sugar, vanilla, and a faint, sad aroma of cocoa from the gingerbread. The sounds of gentle dripping were constant now, like a slow, mournful rain, each drop a tiny piece of the castle giving way. Sir Reginald felt a surge of relief, followed immediately by a fresh wave of concern. The castle before them was a scene of sticky, sugary devastation. Walls of gingerbread were weeping streams of liquefied frosting, forming glittering, shimmering puddles at their base. Turrets made of striped peppermint sticks were listing dangerously, their vibrant colors bleeding into pastel smears. Windows crafted from translucent hard candies were no longer clear but warped and blurry, as if seen through a sugary fog. The grand entrance, usually adorned with gleaming sugar plums, was now partially obscured by a cascade of melting rock candy. Patch, usually boisterous, was strangely subdued, his bead eyes wide with a mixture of awe and apprehension at the scene. The once majestic Candy Castle, a beacon of their world, was now a melting monument to its own demise, and the urgency of their mission pressed heavily upon Sir Reginald's small, brave heart. Every passing second seemed to steal another sweet detail from their beloved fortress. Segment 16. The sight of the melting Candy Castle filled Sir Reginald with a mixture of grief and renewed determination. His small, plush chest swelled with a knightly resolve. He knew he couldn't let the castle dissolve into a sticky puddle. He had to act. He quickly assessed the situation, his button eyes scanning the crumbling walls. The most immediate threat seemed to be the continuous flow of melted frosting and gum, which threatened to engulf the very foundations of the castle. If the base succumbed, the entire structure would collapse. "Hatch," Sir Reginald announced, his voice firm despite the sorrow in his heart. "We must stop the flow. We need something to redirect it, to build a dam." Hatch, ever responsive to his knight's command, looked around eagerly, his nose twitching, already searching. The air was thick and heavy, almost humid with a cloying sweetness, making the fur on their bodies feel slightly damp. The sounds of dripping and oozing were constant, a mournful symphony of the castle's slow demise. Sir Reginald felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his small shoulders, but it was a weight he was prepared to bear. His internal state was a blend of urgency and a burgeoning hope that they could still turn the tide. He refused to let the despair consume him. There was still work to be done, a sweet kingdom to be saved. Segment 17. Their eyes, Sir Reginald's button eyes and Patch's bead eyes, darted across the sticky landscape. What could serve as a dam against the sweet, flowing rivers? Suddenly, Sir Reginald spotted it. A small, discarded wooden block, once part of a child's building set. It was a simple cube, unadorned, but sturdy and perfectly shaped for their purpose. It lay just a few inches away, partially submerged in a shallow pool of melted cherry-flavored hard candy. The block itself smelled faintly of old wood and the subtle sweetness of long-ago play. "There," Sir Reginald exclaimed, pointing with a determined paw. "The block. It's just what we need." Hatch let out an excited woof, understanding immediately. The air was thick with the scent of various candies melting, cherry, lemon, and a strong undertone of gingerbread. The rhythmic drip 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 of the melting sugar intensified their urgency. Sir Reginald felt a surge of practical hope. This was a tangible solution. His internal feelings shifted from desperate searching to focused strategizing, a knight confronting a direct problem with a clear tool in mind. The atmosphere around them, though still permeated by the melancholy of the melting castle, now had an added layer of focused activity, the quiet determination of two small heroes on a critical mission. They knew that placing this block correctly could mean the difference between salvage and total sugary ruin. Segment 18. Retrieving and positioning the wooden block proved to be another test of their combined might. The block was surprisingly heavy, its solid wood resisting their efforts to pull it free from the sticky candy it was half submerged in. Sir Reginald grunted with effort, his small paws slipping occasionally on the sugary residue. Patch, ever the loyal assistant, used his nose and forepaws, pushing and nudging, occasionally letting out frustrated whimpers as the block refused to budge easily. The air was thick and sweet, almost suffocating, and the constant drip, drip, drip of melting candy was a relentless reminder of their dwindling time. Finally, with a tremendous heave, they managed to pry the block loose. It left behind a perfect, sticky indentation in the melted cherry candy. Now came the crucial part, maneuvering it into position to create a dam. Sir Reginald directed the effort, envisioning the best spot to redirect the flow. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a focused intensity that honed his senses. His internal world was a mix of intense concentration and a growing sense of urgency. The castle's very structure seemed to groan under the sugary assault. Piece by painstaking piece, they nudged the block across the sticky surface, aiming for a strategic crevice where two rivers of melted frosting converged. The fate of the candy castle now rested on this small, wooden barrier. Segment 19. With a final, desperate heave, Sir Reginald and Patch managed to wedge the wooden block into the crucial crevice. There was a satisfying, if sticky, thunk as it settled firmly, creating an immediate, albeit small, dam. The rivers of melted frosting, which had been relentlessly flowing towards the castle's foundations, now began to pool behind the block. Their sugary currents momentarily halted. A wave of profound relief washed over Sir Reginald, causing his plush shoulders to sag slightly with the release of tension. Patch let out a triumphant little bark, his tail thumping against the sticky ground, a clear sign of his pride and joy. The air, though still thick with a cloying sweetness, now held a faint breath of hope. The incessant drip, drip, drip from the castle walls seemed less like a mournful dirge and more like a gentle, rhythmic sigh of exhaustion. Sir Reginald surveyed their handiwork, his button eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The block was holding. It wasn't a perfect solution. The castle was still melting in other areas, but they had bought precious time. This small victory, achieved through perseverance and remarkable teamwork, filled Sir Reginald's heart with a warmth that spread through his stuffing. He looked at Patch, who looked back with unwavering loyalty, and a silent understanding passed between them. They had faced overwhelming odds, sticky challenges, and daunting landscapes, and they had not given up. This was the true essence of knighthood, not just grand battles, but the quiet, tenacious struggle against seemingly insurmountable problems. Segment 20. With the immediate threat of the flowing sugary river somewhat contained, Sir Reginald and Patch took a moment to rest, their plush bodies settling onto a less sticky patch of carpet near their makeshift dam. The air, though still heavy with the sweet, humid scent of melting candy, now carried a subtle undertone of stability, a testament to their efforts. The rhythmic drip, drip, drip of the castle's slow disintegration continued, but it no longer felt as desperate or overwhelming. They had bought time, and in the world of daring rescues, time was a precious commodity. Sir Reginald looked at the candy castle, still undeniably damaged, but no longer in immediate peril of total collapse. The leaning peppermint turrets and blurry candy windows remained, but the pooling at its base was now significantly reduced. A profound sense of accomplishment settled over him, a quiet pride in their perseverance and teamwork. He thought back to the vast pillow mountains and the rushing blanket rivers, and how each obstacle, no matter how daunting, had been overcome through courage and cooperation. He glanced at Patch, who was now meticulously cleaning a sticky paw, his little tail giving a contented twitch. The loyal dog, his companion through every step of this arduous journey, was a testament to the power of friendship. Sir Reginald knew that while the Candy Castle still needed long-term repair, They had learned invaluable lessons, that even the bravest knight needs a loyal friend, and that with enough perseverance and teamwork, even the stickiest, most challenging walls can be breached, and the sweetest of dreams can be saved. The bedroom, though still a child's sanctuary, now held the quiet echoes of a grand adventure, forever marked by the brave teddy bear knight and his loyal dog.